back everyone. This is StrengthenX. This is Luke.
Hello.
I'm Johnny, and before we go into this video at all, what I wanted to say is thank you for the support. Thank you for the new subscribers, everyone. We really appreciate the support you're giving. We're a small channel at the moment. We do hope to grow. So if you guys are really enjoying the content, you're new to the content, you want to find more information out, check our old videos out, and you can see what kind of information we do. We're mainly based on, so it's diet, weight training, calisthenics.
Yes.
That's the kind of stuff that we do. If you're really interested in that, make sure you share it with your friends. And of course, the more subscribers we get, obviously the more content we can put out for you guys, and we'll try and do it as often as we can. At the moment, we're doing one a week, but as the subscribership grows and we can take over this channel a little bit more, we hope to do maybe 2 or 3 a week to get more content out for you lot. So let's get into the video. In today's video, what are we going over, Luke?
Muscle building.
Muscle building.
So on the back of last week's video, we are going to look at the nutrition needed for muscle building. So if you didn't check out last week's video, we suggest you do so, which will be up there
somewhere.
So today we're going to go over the main principles of muscle building, but last week's video was more about the macronutrients, micronutrients, supplementation, to basically make an all-round healthy diet. So we highly recommend checking that video out.
Check it out.
Check it out.
So we're going to go into the first point of kind of building muscle. So this week's video is building muscle. And so last week's episode, like you said, was deficit. This time we're going to build some muscle and we're going to grow. So how are we going to do that? What is our first point, Luke?
Point number 1 is calorie intake. Yes. So to build a muscle, we're looking for at least a maintenance calorie intake, preferably a surplus. So at least calorie maintenance. So by calorie maintenance, what we mean is eating enough food, enough energy to sustain your body without losing any. So eating as much as you're excreting, basically.
Yeah. And as much as the last video is great for losing weight and losing body fat, sometimes actually when you lose body fat, it can also you can lose a tiny bit of muscle mass, especially if you're not doing resistance training. So weight training is an absolute must when you're trying to be in a surplus and trying to gain muscle. The average male is around about 5'10", like in the last video, check it out. It's around about 2,500 calories for his maintenance range. Her maintenance range, if you're also trying to build muscle, 5'5", around about 2,000 calories. However, this just is different depending on your
height, weight, age,
genetics.
There's so many factors. So in the previous video as well, there's a link in the description to the BMR Calculator.
Yeah.
We suggest you have a look at that. So that will give you your deficit range. We just recommend adding about 500 calories onto that to get you into a surplus.
Yeah.
But then it all goes down to you as a person, what works for you. Yeah. So you can take a bit of experimenting with it. So if you, after 4 weeks of eating in a surplus, you feel that you're not eating enough, you're not seeing any noticeable gains, add an extra 100 calories on. If you feel like you're maybe eating too much, put a bit of extra excess body fat on, just drop it down a little bit. Yeah. It takes a bit of trial and error.
Which takes us actually into point 2, is eat clean. Don't eat like a fatty, okay? One of the first mistakes that most beginners make. So yeah, you did it, I did it, especially me. So if you're eating, to gain muscle, a lot of people think you can eat pizza, cheeseburgers, whatever. Yeah. Yes, there is some good proteins in that in terms of like high protein, but also you've got to look at the quality of the calories as well. A lot of processed food, a lot of that food is going to get excreted. You're not going to actually absorb a lot of the nutrients. So your body isn't going to respond as well. It's going to have higher inflammation. You're not going to feel as good, a little sluggish, lethargic. And of course, some of these, like pizzas, cheeseburgers, etc., because they can put you into such a surplus, you may be eating thousands of calories beyond your surplus level. And what actually happens is you may look bigger on the scales, which is what we all do. So let's say like in 2 weeks we've gained 10 pounds, which is obviously massively too much of a surplus. I guarantee you 9 pounds of that is probably fat. Yeah. So if that's the case, lower your calories down by a massive amount, please. It literally is 2,500 is the average. So you only want to be in a maximum 500 calorie surplus It is a little bit slower going, but most of it won't be fat.
Yeah, if you're doing it properly, you'll see the results. It just takes a bit of time. So, yeah, putting on like £10 in 2 weeks is not ideal.
Not ideal.
Because getting the scales on anything, the numbers don't really mean much on the scales. It's more about how you look, how you feel. Again, if you're not getting your micronutrients in there, so your vitamins, your minerals, then you're not breaking down the protein as well, so you're not really absorbing as much as you should be. So healthy eating makes a difference.
Yes. If you do want to log it in a way, log it by doing tape measurements, because if your waist is getting bigger but nothing else is, then of course you know you're not doing it right. Everyone's bodies do respond differently, so genetical factors come into play. So you may get bigger arms, bigger legs. Doesn't necessarily mean to say it's muscle, but at least it's a good average, because if your waist is expanding a lot, then clearly we're eating too much. But like I say, takeaway point from point 2, 250 calories to 500 calories surplus. Eat clean. Look at the last video about eating clean, by the way.
Right, part 3, guys.
Part 3.
Protein intake. Very, very important when it comes to building muscle, because protein is what is used by your body to repair that muscle. So we need to make sure we're getting enough protein in, but not too much. So a good range of protein is anywhere between 0.8 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight.
Yes.
So to put that into perspective, I weigh 165 pounds, there or thereabouts. So I need anywhere between 130 to 200 grams of protein per day.
Yeah, and this 0.8 to 1.2 grams per pound of body weight. 0.8, people think, oh, especially some bodybuilders out there, I think that's way too low. Like, no, 2 grams, bro, per pound of body weight, or even more. You do not need that. Studies have proven that is not necessary for muscle in order for that to grow. Obviously, that is just a prerequisite for a calorie surplus. So a lot of these people who are getting bigger obviously aren't tracking their calories, because a lot of the time they're just getting bigger everywhere. Dr. Eric Helms, who is a world-renowned sports scientist in the fitness industry, has actually done his own studies on this as well, and pretty much shown that 0.8 grams is pretty much what most people need minimum in order to grow muscle. So don't worry about the protein too much. Just make sure that, like, if you're someone like Luke's height or my height, and you're around you're a natural lifter, which is the main component to this, that you're probably going to be around anything from like 150 to 200 pounds, someone who's around about less than 16% body fat. So if that's the case, 0.8 to 1.2 is perfect. If you go in any more, it's just literally just for us being in a calorie surplus. Just remember that your stomach also pays for having too much protein, which can put unnecessary stress on the body, can disturb sleep, and actually can inhibit and actually worsen your gains. So protein in too much content can actually be the opposite of what you want.
Now you know.
You know.
So this also gives you a great opportunity to supplement that diet with carbohydrates, fats. So nice tasting foods. So when you say carbohydrates, that's not an NQ to go and eat this pizza.
Damn it.
But just healthy carbohydrates. So that's where you get your veg, fruit, that sort of stuff. Your fats, so like your nuts, seeds, that sort of stuff. So supplement that diet with more carbohydrates and fats. So again, we go over it in the previous video. Go and check it out about not being scared of those carbohydrates. So I think you have to ramp up the protein, so make you eat less carbohydrates, because you need all of it.
Especially don't be afraid of fats as well. If you go to like looking at these Weight Watchers foods where you're trying to lose weight, they always like low fat. But what they don't put in is high sugar, which we spoke about in the last video as well. So don't be afraid of your fats, especially when you're trying to be in a surplus, because like we've gone over before, it's 9 calories per gram of fat. So if you're getting your natural oils in, avocados, eggs, that type of stuff, it's very high in calories, but also very good quality amino acids, which is great for muscle building.
Again, now you know.
You know.
Part 4.
Part 4.
Part 4.
Part 4.
Part 4. Now we're going to go into the lifting side of things. So we're looking to lift heavy. So we're looking for 6 to 12 rep range, and we're going to failure.
Yes.
With correct form. So if you're throwing up those weights, not under control, just lugging around, you're not really contracting those muscles, you're not really building that muscle. So we need to make sure we're strict controlled form, and we're going to that very point of failure. So doing 12 reps where you know you could do 15, 20, there's really no point.
Just as a side note, those of you who are lifting heavy weights on, let's say, barbells, like chest press, squats, make sure that you do have a spotter.
Yes.
If you don't have a spotter, don't go to absolute failure, just go to near failure. Make sure that you get good form out and don't compensate and actually hurt yourself. So that's just add that in there for you guys. Number 5, Mumbo number 5. So point number 5, we're looking at, so you looked at lifting heavy, and now how many times per week do we hit a muscle group? And a lot of people, especially bro builders, will say, no man, you need to just lift once per week, each muscle group. So that's chest one day, legs another day, back the other day, arms the other day. And it's not necessarily the best way of gaining muscle. It does work for some people, but for most, you have to hit those muscles a couple of times per week. And legging muscles, you can even hit 3 times per week. You just have to make sure that you give adequate enough rest time between the sets. Okay? The next issue that you might occur is fatigue.
Yes.
So looking at kind of like fatigue and how it works with muscle growth, when you're hitting like what, 5 to 6 exercises, like saying doing a split, 5 to 6 exercises, just doing like bench, cable flyers, incline press, it can severely fatigue the muscle, and then you're waiting what, a whole week before.
So if you, for example, say you do chest on a Monday, classic International Chest Day. So you do your 6, 7 exercises on chest, completely hammer it. By the 3rd, 4th exercise, your chest is completely annihilated. Then you're pushing it through fatigue to the 6th, 7th exercise, and then you wait 7 days, back to Monday again, do chest again. So Monday morning, something comes up, you know you can't go to the gym for the whole day. Then you do a whole week of training, but you've missed chest. Go back to next Monday, that's now 2 weeks you've not trained chest. That's 14 days without stimulating that muscle. So what you've done there is you've hammered it for 7 exercises, completely destroyed the muscle, fatigue. So really what you've got out of the last 2 or 3 exercises, you've not really got a maximum amount of muscle growth because the muscle's already gone. It's already gone home. Then you're pushing even further, so it's pointless. The
most muscle potential you get is in the first 4 to 8 sets anyway. So after that point, you are literally getting diminishing returns. So the best thing to do is split those muscle groups up. Make sure that you're hitting, like you can either split it up for 2 muscle groups, you can do full body. It doesn't matter. Find what works for you. We both have probably slightly different styles of training.
Definitely. So I tend to do upper body, lower body split. So for me, I do chest, back and shoulders Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then legs and core Tuesday, Thursday. So, and each Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I tend to do, I'll start with shoulders on a Monday. So I'll make sure they're fully at their maximum strength when I do shoulders. Then Wednesday, I'll do chest. I'll start with chest. So that's getting the most out of the reps. And then Friday, I'll start with back. So I'm always work, at least one of those muscles is getting worked first. They're definitely getting full potential out of that lift.
And myself, I'm more of a full body trainer, especially when I'm trying to gain muscle, not strength. Just to let you guys know, strength is a completely different component. And if you're going for strength, you have to be more consistent with a routine. With muscle building, it just depends on what works best for your genetics. For me, I find full body works. What I'll do one day is I'll work on a specific compound like a chest press, and then I'll do one more chest exercise and I'll blitz out the rest of my body in the same capacity. The next day I'll do heavy deadlifts, which is another compound, so it's working my back and legs. So as you can see, I'm sort of splitting them up. I'm still giving myself adequate rest, but what I'm doing is I'm working lighter loads on other days. So let's say bench press on one day, I'll do a push-up on another day. So it's still chest, but it's a different type of resistance. So I'm allowing my muscles to rest enough, but I'm not actually doing it to get stronger. I'm just doing it to get more volume in overall. So that means I can actually work chest 5 times a week, maybe 6 times a week, and it works for me. Like I say, do what works for you. If you'll find that after 12 weeks, this program for yourself isn't working, then switch over the program, but sometimes you can even leave it longer. So you do have to have like a style of program and stick to it to some period of time, because you don't know whether these gains are going to come through. I think the problem with the industry nowadays, with Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, there's so many different variants of training styles.
Yeah, it's a saturated market, isn't it, in terms of workout plans and all these things. And you go on Instagram, you see like big bodybuilders, really good physiques. They're doing some completely far out movement that they claim builds a huge chest, but you probably haven't seen the 5-6 years they've been spent doing basic compound movements to build up their strength and their muscle.
Yeah. So even if you're going to do his program or her program, I would recommend stick to that program. Don't deviate from it too much, because if you're trying to deviate from something, it means you're adding components in outside of already a set rule. If, like, say for instance, you do Luke's variation, and let's say you miss a day or two, you can still at least hit that muscle once a week. My variation, you can still hit it 3-4 times a week. And you know, if you're doing like a set routine where you are doing a bro split, like I said, and then you're deviating from it, and it just doesn't work. You need to stick to a program of some sort. It doesn't have to be solid. You can take a little liberties with it sometimes, but try and stick at least with something for 12 weeks. That is number 5.
Rant over.
So before we end that video, what we're going to go into is how much muscle can you gain over a year. So it depends on what point of training you're at. If you're a beginner, and a beginner is between 0 to 2 years, so obviously from scratch up to 2 years is usually considered a beginner, and beginners can actually go on for longer, but they usually gain around about, or can gain up to 14 pounds per year. So you're looking at about a stone a year of muscle. Obviously that's all natural, of course, so we're only looking at naturals, we're not looking at non-naturals, because they can obviously grow muscle a lot faster. There is some anomalies. I'm not saying that you can't grow anything more than 14 pounds. I'm just saying that's an average.
Yeah.
An intermediate, anything considered over 2 years, probably up to about 6 to 8 years. Depends on the person. So that particular person would probably grow between 4 to 8 pounds of muscle. And 8 pounds being marginally high, so that's on the higher genetic scale. 4 pounds is probably more of like a basic average. And then finally, an advanced, who is anyone who's been probably lifted over 8 to 10 years and beyond that point, is usually about 1 to 3 pounds per year of muscle if you're lucky. Just to let you guys know, going back to point number 2 about eating clean, when you are a beginner to an advanced, you can get away with a slightly bit of sloppy eating every now and again. But when you are trying to gain muscle, when you're advanced, it is very, very difficult. You have to eat so clean. To get that 6-pack that you see these guys on Instagram and Facebook and everyone else, you need to eat perfectly throughout the year. You can barely deviate from it at all. So I'm not saying that you should eat dirty, I'm just saying that you can get away with it more. So if you think that you're better than someone else because you're a beginner and you're eating rubbish, it doesn't mean that you are, it just means that you're just not at the stage yet where you're slowing down the muscle gains, and you need to look at your calories and you need to look at your macros better. So just to put that out there, as you get more advanced, please eat cleaner, okay? And we're going into our next video of next week. What are we going to talk about, Luke?
So we're going to go over volume versus intensity.
Yes.
So just a slight input into what we're going to be doing, so you're ready, so you can look out for the video. It's going to be, we're looking at the difference between lifting 8 reps to failure and just lifting 8 reps is basically. So reps to volume of just banging out 8 reps, or doing 8 good quality reps with form, good muscle contraction to the point of failure, and how that massively differs in terms of your muscle gains. We're going to go over different forms of training, so supersets, drop sets, again, training to volume, fatigue, and just how these different exercises will work for you in your training.
Yeah, it just leads directly off this video about lifting heavy and volume. So we wanted to just kind of do an extra video on that to show you guys about volume intensity and actual kind of like just lifting in general to volume. So we, of course, have to make a separate video on this because it needs its own time. Yeah. So make sure you check out that video next week. It's going to be probably out on Thursday. We can't guarantee, but we usually get most of the videos out on Thursday, just in case you guys want to know. But if you don't, or if we don't get it out by Thursday, please hit that notification bell. if you haven't already subscribed.
Yes.
Because
very important.
Yeah, if you're not going to get the notification bell, you're just going to end up like not potentially watching the video and missing out on that particular one. So if you are enjoying these kind of videos and you want to go on to next week's video, we'll continue on from there. But you guys have to drop some comments in. Let us know what you're enjoying. Let us know what you want to know about, and we can do a video on that in future.
Yes, feedback is needed.
Yes,
and welcomed.
Thank you. So,
goodbye.